So welcome everybody. My name is Heather, and for folks who might be new to Garden Gateway, it's a free home gardening and healthy cooking education program offered by Community Services Unlimited here in South Central. Typically, we do our workshops in person on our farm at the Expo Center near Bill Robertson Lane and Martin Luther King. And during COVID, we've shifted that to doing virtual workshops and posting them on our YouTube channel, and here and there doing some live workshops as well. And we are excited to have a lot of really special guests today. Today, we're going to be talking about mussels, these little shell creatures from the ocean. Learning about how to prepare them, but also how they're good for us and how they can be good for the environment and for our community. And so I just want to run through who we have on the call on the workshop with us today. We've got Diane Kim and Nathan Churches from Holdfast Aquaculture. We've got Linda Chilton and Maria Madrigal from USC Sea Grant. We've got Amalia Amata and Devin Ayala from USC. So this workshop this month is part of, like I said, part of our Garden Gateway series, but also part of a long project that we've been working on with Holdfast, with Santa Barbara Mariculture, Mariculture, and with partners from USC, working to look to launch something that we're calling this South LA Seafood Hub. And the idea behind that is very similar to the work that the Village Marketplace has done for a long time, connecting directly with producers so that we can bring the highest quality foods into our community and make it accessible to everyone, regardless of where you live and income. And that's what the Village Marketplace works to do. And so we're excited to partner with the team that's on the call today to see if we can make sustainable seafood part of what we offer here in South LA. And so we're bringing together producers, we're looking at what is the demand and interest amongst our customers in our community, and how can we all work together to improve the communication and distribution and make it work so that local seafood can be part of what we offer here and that it can be part of what we're supporting in terms of a local sustainable food system. We're going to go ahead and get started talking about these things. What are mussels? We're cooking these little mussels. And to kind of get us started talking a little bit about these delicious creatures, we've got Diane Kim from Holdfast and Nathan as well.
Thank you so much, Heather. You know, I'm a longtime fan of CSU, so I'm so excited to be doing this work with you and the amazing folks at CSU like Zakia and Myra. Thank you so much for all the hard work that you all do over there. I'm an ocean scientist by training, and I'm also a co-owner of Holdfast Aquaculture. And I'm really excited and very proud to tell folks that the mussels that you'll be cooking today, Heather, and that folks have at home were locally produced right here in Southern California. So Holdfast Aquaculture produced the mussel seeds, and we'll get to what that is. People are probably wondering what are mussel seeds. But those mussel seeds, after we produced them in our land-based tanks in San Pedro, we sent them up to Santa Barbara to our friend and ocean farmer, Bernard Friedman, who operates a farm called Hope Ranch. And they've been growing out there in clean, open ocean waters for about 9 to 10 months. And they were literally harvested just this week. So these are the freshest mussels that you know folks can get, which we're really excited about. So not only are you getting extremely protein dense food packed with minerals, vitamins, and fatty acids, but you're getting the tastiest version of that because they're so fresh. I mean, if you go to the market, you may find some fresh mussels, but you know they're probably going to be from the East Coast or Canada. But more likely, you know, you're not going to find a whole lot of fresh mussels. You're more likely to find frozen mussels that come from even further distances, like places like New Zealand, which of course carry a large carbon footprint. And so these locally produced mussels are much more environmentally friendly because of that smaller carbon footprint. And that's on top of the fact that they're already you know, considered the most sustainable sources, environmentally sustainable sources of protein on the planet. So you know, we're excited for all of those reasons, but of course, The South LA Seafood Hub project also supports local businesses like Holdfast Aquaculture and Santa Barbara Mariculture. It supports local community partnerships like the one that we have with CSU, really strengthening those partnerships. And probably most importantly, it helps us increase equitable access to sustainable seafood so that all folks can enjoy and afford this delicious form of protein. And so I'm gonna actually pass the mic to Nathan Churches, my colleague and another co-owner of Holdfast Aquaculture. And Nate, can you tell us a little bit more about what mussel seeds are and just a little bit more about how these mussels were grown?
Yeah, totally. So I'm Nathan Churches. I'm an avid ocean goer and entrepreneur. I play in the ocean and I work in the ocean. You can't really get me out of it. So I'm excited to talk about these today. I had some of them last night for dinner and they were incredible. This particular harvest has been great. So you got good stuff. In terms of how we create a mussel at Holdfast, we actually create something called a seed. Okay, and a seed is just like you would find in agriculture. So a corn crop needs seeds, a soybean crop needs seeds, chickens come from eggs, for example. And so these are all versions of seeds, and ocean farming also operates under the same parameters where somebody or some company, in this case Holdfast, needs to produce a seed for a farmer. And when we get these seeds, or when we make these seeds, they're essentially microscopic, okay? You can't see them with the naked eye. So what we'll do is we'll take 2 adult mussels and we'll get the eggs and sperm from those mussels and make tiny little mussel eggs, or larvae, I should say. They're called larvae. And from that point, we raise them on land in tanks. They look like aquariums with nothing in them because they're microscopic at first. But they'll start to grow and grow and grow. And when they get to just to the point where you can see them, about the size, about a millimeter or so, about the size of maybe the end of your fingernail, we put them onto what's called fuzzy rope, which is exactly what it sounds like it is, just rope with lots of fuzzy stuff on it. And mussels love that stuff, okay? So they'll just sit down and they say, okay, this is where I want to stay for the rest of my life. So that all happens at Holdfast. Once they settle down onto that rope, we send that out to, for in this case, the farmers at Santa Barbara Mariculture. And then they put it out on their farm, and about 9 months to a year later, we have the delicious food that we're about to enjoy today. So yeah, I think that's a good intro to how it's done. It's actually not that different from, for example, a starter of any sort of terrestrial land-based food crop.
Great, thank you, Diane, and thank you, Nate. Okay, so let's get started talking about how to prepare these mussels. There's lots of different ways. Folks steam them, boil, cook them in soups, cook them over fire in different kinds of ways. But one of the simplest ways to cook them is just to quickly steam them with some aromatic like onions, garlic, shallots, and some fresh herbs. And you can just taste the kind of sweet naturalness of the mussels, and it's pretty no fuss. And so that's the recipe that we shared with all you, and that's the one that we're gonna go through today. So the first thing that we wanna talk about is what to do when you purchase your mussels, when you get ready to take your mussels home. Mussels are alive, and you do wanna keep them cold. They are a seawater creature, so you can't have them submerged in fresh water. And so when you get them, they usually come in that mesh bag. That's how you got them from us, and that allows any water from them to drain off. And as soon as you get them home, you should put them in your refrigerator. Best to keep them cold and moist in some kind of way. So how we recommend to do it is you can just empty them into a bowl. This is a little bit bigger maybe than I need for this amount, but you can just empty them right into a bowl. And then in your fridge, you could just take a towel, a dish towel or a paper towel, get that wet, wring it out so it's not drippy, and then drape it over the top of your bowl and keep that in your fridge. And that'll keep your mussels fresh for about 3 to 4 days. You might have some condensation gather in the bowl from the mussels releasing water or just from the damp cloth and such. And so you want to check them regularly and be sure that you're pouring off any liquid that might gather, because you don't want them to sit in that liquid. They are alive, and that can kill them. And so you might have to wet your towel or, resituate them every couple days. In the case here in the kitchen, while I'm getting ready for the workshop, I actually had a bowl full of ice, and I set that down. And then I have these guys in this metal bowl sitting on top to keep them nice and chilled when I'm here in the kitchen. Okay. So the next thing is washing them. You can rinse them in fresh water. You just don't want them to be pooled in the fresh water. And I just used under cold water a little veggie scrubber, real simple, and just gave them a quick little rub and rinse. They're not, you might find like some little imperfections and things on the shell. It's not necessary to like scrub them, crazy, but just a little scrub to get off any debris or anything that might be on them is fine. Give them a little rinse. And as long as they're just feeling like nothing's coming off of them, then you're good. Okay. And then the next thing is you need to make sure they're alive. So sometimes when you're going through them, I'll hold it up here, you might see one that's a little bit open. Does that come through? Mm-hmm. You see that a bit? So you can do something called the pinch test. So if it's open, let's see, you can see that there. You pinch it, and let's watch. Do you see that? A little bit? Yeah. Very slow. Great. So if they're alive, they might open up to get a little fresh air, stretch out a little. But you give them a little pinch and they go, what? And then they'll contract themselves. And so if they do that, then they're alive. And they may do that slowly. It's a very slow little thing, but then they're alive. If you squish it and give it a few seconds, and if it doesn't naturally contract and close itself up, then it's not alive and you should discard it. Don't eat that mussel. Also, if you're finding that your shells have like big cracks or chips or things out of them, you should just go ahead and discard those. So you should have an intact mussel shell, and when squeezed, they should contract and close themselves up tight. And even if they take a few seconds to do it, it's okay. All right. The last thing about cleaning is that the mussels have this little string on it here. You can see that. Now, I've always been told that this is called the beard. Someone always called it the beard. It's also called the byssal thread. Did I say that right?
Byssal thread.
Byssal. It's the byssal thread. And I've learned about this. This is actually pretty interesting. The mussel creates this to attach itself to wherever it's growing. It's like its own little ocean glue that it makes for itself. So it's quite remarkable that it does it. And Diane even shared that like scientists are studying how they produce this, because glue that works underwater is actually a pretty helpful thing. So like many things, we're looking to nature to learn how to be better humans and do things better. So you have to remove this. It is attached to the mussel. So in removing it, you might hurt the body of the mussel. So you don't want to clean these ahead of time. You want to clean them right before you intend to cook them, because when you remove this, if you kill the mussel, then you store it. Now you have a dead mussel. But if you do damage it and you're just about to cook it, that's okay. So most of the time you can just grab it and kind of yank it, and out it comes. And there you go. Now and then they're a little peskier, and you might yank and pull. Oh, well, now this one came out easy, of course. But anyways, if you pull them and they don't come all the way off, I just keep a little scissors or a knife, and you can just give them a little nip. It won't hurt you. When you steam or when you cook them, it'll be inside the shell. And when you eat the mussel, you could just pull it out, but it's not going to hurt you in any way. But that's how you get those little beards off. Okay. So here's the recipe that we're doing today. We're just making a simple aromatic broth. Try to get you all a little closer here on my stove top. Oops. Okay. On the stove top here, I've put the recipe that we have on the sheet says shallot and garlic. I didn't have any shallots, so I just used a little white onion. You could use shallots, garlic, onion, leeks, anything in that family of aromatic things. And so I went ahead and put them in here. And then you want to use some kind of liquid for the broth. You could use water, but you could also use some other kind of broth, maybe a seafood broth, even if you wanted to use some other kind of stock. I used a little bit of white wine this morning, so that's a popular way to do it. And you'll cook off the alcohol in the process. So I put those aromatics in here and I set them on a low simmer. They've been simmering away here for a while until the onions and the garlic get kind of translucent and they've infused my liquid with their flavor. Now, this is a place folks make all kinds of broths to do this in. You could put in a little chopped tomato. You could put in, I don't know, anybody else have something they love to put in theirs?
I like to throw in a little bit of green sometimes too, kind of towards the end of it, and it kind of makes it a little bit more salady. But basically, any good fresh veggie is going to pair well with mussels.
Yeah. So any kind of broth you want to make, you're going to do that. So since I've been simmering for a while, actually, I'm just going to turn up the heat a bit. I'm going to add a little more liquid. And what I did for my onion is I went ahead and diced the onion into, little, like the size you would just kind of use if you're making soup or something. So I went ahead and diced that and dumped that right in. But me, for the garlic, you could dice that. I like to have it a little more present. And so I sliced it. I just peeled the cloves and went through and sliced it because I like getting a bite of that broth that has that tender, strong, garlic in there. So I'm going to pour that in there, and then you let it sit and simmer. So about 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. You want to be sure that you have kind of a big pan, so we'll put up a little bit more in, and you get it so it's on not a heavy boil, but a light boil. You want the water to be moving around. And now I'm just going to take my mussels that I've debearded, I've checked them all, I've removed any that aren't closing. In the process of sitting in the bowl here, some of them have gone ahead and opened up. And so, but I just checked them when I washed them. I feel confident about those. I'm going to dump them right in to the pot. I'm going to take a lid and I'm going to cover them up. Give them a little shake. My fire is about medium, and they're going to steam in there, and they're going to release a little bit of salt water that might already be held in their shell. That's going to mix with the broth and everything else to make this really delicious, flavorful, briny broth. And while we do that, while we're waiting for those to steam, I'm going to go ahead and pop up a video of Bernard from Santa Monica Mariculture, or Santa Barbara Mariculture. He wasn't able to join us on the call today, but in the interest of meeting our farmer, we want to learn a little bit about what he does. So we'll take a minute and we'll watch that.
I never knew that I was going to become a mussel farmer. I was just very interested in how it works. Like how do we live sustainably on the earth here? Like how do we do it? So that naturally led me to study to get a marine biology degree at UC Santa Cruz, to get a master's degree at the University of Ireland, and to really just be interested in the whole, like how fishing works and how do we grow things sustainably, how do we fish things sustainably, how does it work? My name is Bernard Friedman, and I'm the owner of Santa Barbara Mariculture Company. I own the Perseverance, which is an offshore mussel harvesting boat. The farm is located about a mile off the coast of Santa Barbara. So what we grow on the farm is a Mediterranean mussel. They are known in the market as black mussels, but really people that know us and come to appreciate us know them as Hope Ranch mussels. And so that's what makes these mussels really unique, because these mussels are grown in the open ocean. They're really salty, they're really sweet. They're a product that you won't find anywhere else in the market. Farming on mussels is probably one of the most sustainable ways to farm food on the planet. It doesn't use a lot of resources when you look at it compared to what a farm does on land. You know, I mean, even if you're a soybean farmer or a potato farmer, you still have to clear the land, and no other animal can use that area. Versus a mussel farm, lots of animals can commingle and integrate in that area. The mussels take about a year to grow. The process is that we lease land from the state of California, or we lease ocean from the state of California. And we have a designated area where I can grow the mussels, which is a mile off of Hope Ranch. I use a Japanese longline system. It's a submerged longline that sits about 30 feet below the ocean surface. The water depth is about 80 feet, and the mussels are hung on that longline. So they're 30 feet below the ocean surface, but they're above the ocean floor as well, so they're suspended. They fasten themselves on the ropes naturally. They feed naturally on the ocean currents. We do manage it and we do watch them grow, but it is a natural process. So today was a harvest day. We already have our order of what we're going to harvest, what we know we're going to harvest, so we just harvest that amount. We basically went to a long line. We pulled up the long line, and underneath that long line was the rope cultured mussels. And all we did was just take one end and feed that mussel rope into the machine, and the machine stripped the mussels off the rope and then cleaned them in the brush machine, and then they fell back into seawater. So once they're removed from the rope, then we bag them. So then we put them on the table. We give an extra clean and extra inspection just to make sure we have good quality product, and then we bag them into 25-pound bags. And then they go back into the seawater. So they're not really exposed to any air at all. So they have a really fresh quality to them. They have a long shelf life, and it's really unique and different. No other processor really does that. You have to go over to New Zealand to match that quality. A lot of producers have to land their product and then clean it on land and then put it in cold storage or back in seawater, versus we do it in one shot. And then when we hit the dock, those mussels are sold and ready to be eaten. It's a really live product. I mean, that's what we're going for, is a really live, fresh, good quality mussel. Our partnership with Santa Barbara Fish Market has worked out really well. It really allows me to focus on the farming part of the aspect and to be a better farmer. And it allows him to sell my product into the market. And it really connects the farm to the people. The Santa Barbara Fish Market has done a phenomenal job at doing that. And I really appreciate that, because it really frees up my time to focus on what I need to be doing, and that's being offshore farming a better mussel. This is a family farm, and we view ourselves as investing in the future of the planet. And we're partnering with Santa Barbara Fish Market to provide a very natural and nutritious food from our family to your family. We enjoy eating mussels, and so should you.
So, okay, while that was happening, these mussels were cooking. I started to hear a little steam and bubbling coming out of the edge of the pan, and so I went ahead and turned it off. And now I'm gonna go ahead and bring y'all a little closer so you can see this. Woo! Steaming. Here we are.
Oh yeah.
That looks amazing.
Fantastic.
Now you're not here, so we don't have like smell-a-zoom, unfortunately.
Not yet.
They smell amazing and briny and garlicky. And like Nate, at this stage, when I pull the top off, I like to sprinkle on a little fresh chopped up parsley or cilantro or something like that, or even really thinly shaved lemon. Sometimes I'll just drop that on top. So just one more kind of fresh, but really aromatic punch to bring it together. And then what I'm gonna go ahead and do, I have this really big, beautiful bowl, and this big spoon, and I'm gonna go ahead and scoop all of this greatness into the bowl here. And as I'm doing that, I'm checking out to make sure that they all open. And if you see any that didn't open, again, those are ones that weren't in good shape. And so you should go ahead and discard those. So I'm just kind of double checking as I scoop, and I'll show you any that I come across here. Oh, all right, I'll look to the experts. Now this one barely opened. I also see that there's a big crack in the shell. I personally err on the side of caution, and I would probably not eat this one. I see Linda nodding.
That's what I would do. Yeah.
That's a good call. Okay. So they should be nice and wide open, just like the mussels that we saw in our beautiful flyer, kind of showing themselves off and ready for you to get those. So I'm going through and grabbing those. And then also you have this really great broth at the bottom, and you don't want to lose that. And so I'm also going to take a bit of that and just strip it into my bowl here. And you could divide this, depending on how much you're making, you can divide this by a couple of folks. But the other thing that's really nice, so we have a great partnership with a group called Cast Your Bread, who has been donating loaves of bread to go into our sponsored groceries for the last year while we've been supporting families who are being impacted by COVID. And so they sent us an extra loaf this week, and I have this beautiful, heavy, nice bread. And this is delicious, swooped around in the broth. And so that's the bonus there. So I want to go ahead and open up for all of our participants who joined the call, and invite you, if you like, to unmute, and invite you also to turn on your camera if you like, and take a minute to join us and share anything that you want to share. Did you cook your mussels at home, or do you cook yours in a different kind of way?
Well, I saw Nate, you put your mussels on pizza the other night, right?
Oh yeah. So another way you can prep them is just barbecue them, and you do exactly essentially what we did here, except for you just put them on the grates in the barbecue, and when they open up, they'll open up in the exact same way. And then I took all of them out of the shell and made a pizza with it, and it was very, very tasty. So that's another way to do it. You can get real creative with these little protein balls. They're great.
I also wanted to give folks a chance, if there was any questions that you had about mussels, anything that you wanted to ask of our participants this morning.
Yeah, actually, I have a question. Once they're cooked, how long do they keep, or should you eat them all and not keep any leftovers?
I would say that they're best when you've just eaten them. If you're gonna save them, you want to remove them from the shell, and then those can stay in the fridge for up to another few days. And you could do something like add them to a soup later, or put them on a pizza later. But if you do want to keep them, remove them from the shell, because the shell will start to get funky in the fridge, but the meat will keep in the fridge.
Yeah, I agree. Fresh mussels are the way to go, eating them sooner than later. But we've at Holdfast, we've also been experimenting a little bit with pickling cooked mussels in flavors like miso and escabeche, and those keep for quite a while if you pressure can them. And so we're really excited to be, hopefully we'll roll some of these products out later, and we'll touch base with you, Heather, and others at CSU, and so that we can have folks enjoy those as well.
And unlike the fresh mussels, you probably want to seal that container of mussels if you keep any over time, just so the rest of your fridge doesn't smell like mussels.
I see a question here from Elaine about putting mussels in the freezer. Can one of you speak to that? It sounds like, Elaine, you took home your fresh mussels the other day and put them straight into the freezer. Does anyone have any advice about freezing?
Oh, yeah. One of the challenges is you want to cook mussels that are alive. And if they've been frozen, they're no longer going to be alive.
Yeah, what you could do is, I guess, if you cook them while they're alive and then extract the mussel meat and freeze that, yeah. You can preserve it that way.
But if you did take them and put them in the freezer, I think you could probably still cook them, but you might get a dead one here and there that was previously dead. I think the meat will firm up in a similar way, though. It should be noted that even if you got one that was recently dead, it'll just taste a little bit funky. These have been tested for any toxins, like you might have heard of people getting sick from eating shellfish. That comes usually from different stuff happening. It's not because you accidentally eat one that was freshly dead, if you will. So it's best to cook them fresh, but I don't think it's the end of the world if you froze them before you started cooking today.
But if you were going to freeze them, would you want to go through them first and like remove any dead ones, maybe rinse them or something before you freeze them?
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask, Linda was going to come in and maybe share a little bit more with us about what does it mean for our local food system and for our local oceans to be having sustainable seafood be part of what we look at when we're thinking about a sustainable diet and sustainability for our region.
Thank you. And I also love having anything to do with the ocean. I'm a marine educator for the USCC grant program and really excited to be here. I'm learning lots. And after a quick search, it's true. I didn't realize you can freeze fresh mussels in a Ziploc bag, and they just say defrost them before you cook them. And defrost in the fridge. So it was nice to learn something new. So thank you all for asking those questions. Mussels are not only good for you and high in protein, but they're also really good for the environment. And as Bernard was saying, they filter their food. So they're filtering out plankton. They don't have to have extra feed given to them. And that means there's no risk of having extra feed added to the ocean. And there's also less consumption. They're able to use what's naturally there. They can filter almost 2 liters of water in an hour. And as they do that, they help the ocean population stay in balance. And if there are a lack of mussels, a lack of filter feeders, we can end up with environments that aren't as healthy. The water quality isn't as healthy. When mussels grow alongside kelp, they end up adding nutrients for the kelp to be able to grow. And as you saw, those lines, when Santa Barbara Mariculture pulled up those lines of mussels, there were other organisms living there because mussels provide this really rich habitat for other sea life to live amongst. And when we think about what impact do they have when it comes to greenhouse gases and carbon footprint from the choices we make in eating protein, and they're very low on that scale of the impact they have. In fact, it would be if you were producing beef, 30 times as much greenhouse gases are produced in producing just a kilogram of beef compared to a kilogram of mussels. So mussels are really great on that scale. Also by having it local, that you're eating food that's local is also reducing all of those greenhouse gases of transporting. So everything about them is super exciting to be able to have this option available.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, particularly for all of us Californians, bivalves, mussels, oysters, things like that are essentially zero freshwater input. So that's a critical issue. As we all know, drought is a big problem or a recurring problem in our state. So this is a way to generate tons and tons of really great, delicious protein with essentially zero freshwater input also.
I'm glad you mentioned that because they also are not going to be taking up land. And having a space out in the ocean 30 feet deep is really beneficial there. So both the protection of the area with less water use and less land use.
I think the environmental benefits are so important. I think the social aspects of creating a local seafood hub is also so important, right? And that's why we're so excited to partner with CSU because Heather, you touched on this. You called, some people think of seafood items as boutique items. Usually they can be pretty expensive, which limits access for some households. And so part of this program is really to remove those types of barriers and using the model at CSU where, if you can pay a premium, right? Customers who can pay a premium, if they can pay a little bit more so that other customers can pay a little bit less. I mean, if we create this type of economic model, I think we can create greater access to really healthy, delicious, nutritious protein like mussels to everybody in every household. So that's really important.
Yeah, thanks so much, Diane. I think something that's important too to note in that, you know, when you were talking earlier about most of the mussels that folks are getting are being imported from so far away, and all of that cost is incorporated into what you're getting. And what makes it different than something like beef in the United States is that the production of that protein is so heavily subsidized in many, many, many different ways. And so when you're looking at, well, you have this great protein source like Linda highlighted, it's an unsubsidized source. And so when you're doing that distance shipping and it's coming, you're paying for all of that. Really, if we were paying the true cost of a comparable amount of beef, it would be very expensive because of the amount of water, because of the amount of feed, because of all the costs associated with that. But how can we connect with each other locally so that we can reduce the cost of this product? And we're not shipping it, we're not using airplanes, we're not using freight, we're not using all of that. And so how can we efficiently partner with the producers, with our local businesses to bring that product here? In the same way that we do on the produce side. So we partner directly with farmers. We try to buy from them on the days that they're already coming into town so that we're maximizing those miles and getting, you know, product to us just like they would already be coming to the farmers markets. And so that's what the hub, what we're looking at is what are those pathways? Who's already buying things? How are things traveling? How do we make this as efficient and affordable as possible? And then like Diane said, can we look at different pricing models, kind of like CSU and the Village Marketplace use in our produce bag program, where those who can pay a little bit more so that others can pay a little bit less so that it's accessible to everybody, and that we're allowed to, and that we accept EBT, and that everybody can make this choice for themselves if they want to, for their diet.
You pay for that in your flavor, right? At the end of the day, you got to eat it. And if you're buying something from New Zealand that's been on a plane for a week and then sitting on ice for a few more days, it's not going to taste as good as the ones that you get from your backyard.
Well, and supporting farmers that also believe in the same ethics that you do, the same idea of strengthening communities and allowing seafood to be available to everyone.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us this morning. I hope you're inspired to get your mussels cooked up if you haven't already. Send them to us or post them online and tag us at BMPCSU so we can see the delicious things that you're creating in your kitchen. Thank you all so much.